lines like we do every Tuesday to talk to our guy, Nick Underhill, New Orleans Football, at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Sign up for New Orleans Football. Not only do you support Nick directly, but you get the best Saints coverage and takes and angles and reporting that you will find anywhere New Orleans Football. Nick, what's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're doing well. Let's start outside of the Saints because we just talked about it for a while. It's a fun conversation. Carolina making a move, sending picks to New York to get Sam Darnold. What's your overall take on the deal?
I felt like Carolina got him for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the number 3 overall pick just 3 years ago. I think there's still a lot of potential there. And, I wonder if New York's making a mistake evaluating this guy after being with Adam Gase. It seemed like he really ran that franchise down into the dirt. And I just don't know if that's the evaluation I'd want to make on a guy I just invested that much into. But, from Carolina's side, they very quickly decided Teddy Bridgewater wasn't the guy for them, and that's been quite loud. It's a tough situation for him. I wonder what's next for him, and I think his contract's probably too big right now to think about coming back to the Saints. But if there were, a possibility of him lowering that number and then Carolina trading him or him getting released, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints had some interest in bringing him back, even if it's just as a backup. They've thought a whole lot of him, and it feels like if Teddy isn't starting here, he's a backup in the rest of the NFL, and he might just be a backup here, but this situation would be a good spot for him if the money made sense.
Wait, so Nick, am I wrong here? I may have misread, but one of the articles I read yesterday said that, like, for instance, if Teddy Bridgewater got cut, that he could sign with, like, Tampa for, like, league minimum, and then the Panthers would be on the hook for the other $9 million. But does the whole $10 million that he's guaranteed still count against whatever team's cap that he would sign with, even if they're not paying the whole thing?
Well, if he got cut, he could sign anywhere, and what they pay him is what he would get paid. If he has offset language, so, yeah, if he has offsets up to $10 million, that would mean, Carolina's on the hook for the $10 million minus whatever the team that signs him pays him. So if you sign him for the league minimum, it would take $970 off, and they'd be on the hook for the rest of it. So if you aren't exceeding that $10 million number, there's really no reason to sign him for anything above it. So, yeah, I mean, that could be a way to get him on a very cheap deal. I imagine Carolina wants to trade him, so they don't have, all this money on the books and they get something back from him. But I don't know who's out there, dying to have him. If he's not starting somewhere, I don't think anyone's going to pay him that money. So, it might be a cut, or they might just, if his head's in the right place, and I don't know why it would be with the way they've treated him, with the way they've hung his name out there. It's just kind of been embarrassing for him. I don't know why he'd want to stick around and be a mentor to Sam Darnold, but he has been a great teammate everywhere he's been, and that'd be against character for him. But they have kind of pushed him to a point where I could see him being like, "Look, get me out of here. I don't want to be a part of this."
Nick, you surprised that it went downhill so quickly? Because him and Joe Brady did have that relationship when they were with the Saints together, and Joe Brady becomes a coordinator, and they kind of handpicks his quarterback. He gets Teddy Bridgewater to Carolina, and after only a year with no Christian McCaffrey for the full season because of injuries, they're going ahead, getting Sam Darnold and moving on?
I'm more surprised the evaluation was that bad than kind of how it went. I don't want to disparage Teddy or anything like that, but, the games he started 2 years ago, I didn't think he really showed anything that convinced me he was an NFL starter. The Saints paid one guy. They had two in the building. The guy they paid wasn't Teddy Bridgewater. I just think maybe Joe didn't know what he needed or exactly what he was getting. I just think they really messed up that evaluation. And look, if we're being honest, like if Sam Darnold isn't revivable, they put a lot into two quarterbacks. You strike out twice in a row. The guys that are in power there could be in hot water very, very quickly if Sam Darnold doesn't turn this around.
If Sam Darnold does turn it around, is Adam Gase the worst hire that a team has ever made?
Well, I think he's probably up there anyhow. I mean, I still can't believe that they hire, like, he gets fired and they hire him in the division that quickly, and there was nothing to show you. And then you go through, like, the guys in Miami, and Tannehill took a little step back, but, a lot of the guys that left got a lot better once they were away from him. Like, Devontae Parker becomes this guy that's, the only person in the league that can beat Stephon Gilmore, and he's a good receiver now. Tannehill takes the team to the playoffs. It just seems like he's held people back. And look, I understand he was with Peyton Manning for a year, but I don't think you should hire Peyton Manning's coordinator and mint him like that. I don't think you should hire Tom Brady's coordinator for just a short stint. And, there's these guys that are their own coordinators. He built his name being next to one. And, he was on scholarship for a lot of years. I'm just surprised the Jets thought that was the guy that quickly.
Yeah, I was in those rooms. The person who had the clicker on Monday mornings was Peyton Manning.
Hey, Adam, dude. Shout out Adam. I think we all wish that we could fail upwards in a similar manner. Like, I would have no problem. Somebody was to pay me to be really bad. I'll take the shame if I get the checks to go along with it. That's fine.
And we should have known probably from the press conference. But
yes.
Anyways,
absolutely.
Okay. Nick, I want to ask you, and I know T wants to get into more Saints, but I want to ask you just the NFC South right now, because we were having this discussion before we came on air. Like, does this completely change your mindset for Carolina? How do you feel about where things stand right now with Atlanta, Tampa Bay bringing back all 22 starters from the Super Bowl, first time since the 70s,
yeah, that's what you just read. That
I believe
is
it's a stat I just read. So how are you viewing the entire conference right now? Division, I should say.
It's a great question. I mean, Tampa's really the only team that I feel like I know what they are, and I feel like everybody else is kind of a question mark at this point. I feel like Atlanta has a lot of work to do. Carolina could be better if Darnold's if he settles in and he plays well. There's a lot of weapons there, and I think that offense could get a lot better quickly. They lost a lot of games late that they couldn't win because of Teddy. I mean, that's something I talk about a lot. Like, Teddy's a guy that you don't win because of. You can win with, but like when you need him, he's not going to lead you. Darnold might. So maybe they're a little bit better. If things hit with Jameis, I feel like the Saints are right behind Tampa Bay. If they don't, I'd put Carolina there. It's going to be an interesting year. It's the first time in a long time that I feel like, a lot of things are really up in the air, except for Tampa. And we'll see how things go for them. I mean, I expect them to be better than they were last year. It took them a while to kind of find their identity and figure things out. And then, once they did after Thanksgiving, it felt like they were a much different team than they were the whole season. So they should be that again. I don't see Brady suddenly falling off a cliff. He's going to, make another deal with the devil or whatever and get 10 more years and just keep rolling. So they should be right there. And I think I would go Saints second. I kind of have a belief in Jameis just off of the things he's saying. That might be foolish belief. It might be stupid, but it seems like he is saying all the right things. And if his game matches his words, I think the Saints should be able to come in second and get in the playoffs. Yeah,
that is the thing with Jameis. He's always been really good at saying like the absolute correct thing where you're like, whoa, okay, this sounds great. We want to see that fall through for sure. What about okay? So let's focus on the Saints here for a second. Then, even though when you're talking about the Bucs, I can't help but think back to those back-to-back Super Bowl Broncos teams, where the first John Elway Bronco team, I think they were like 12-4, maybe had to come out of the wild card, and then the next year they were like 14-2, and they knew they were the man. Unfortunately, this has that similar sort of feel. As far as the Saints go, pass rush, losing Trey Hendrickson is pretty big. You definitely need Marcus Davenport to stand out. But I know, Nick, you focused a lot on Carl Granderson. Like, what do you feel that his role can be in that regard next year?
I think he has a chance to be really good if he gets a lot of reps. I mean, his pass rush moves are really refined, and he does some things that I think a lot of guys can't do. Like, everybody can hit a spin move, but he has a spin move where, like, he can fake inside and then hit you on the outside. And those are stuff like that's hard to pull off, and it shows up on his film. And when he hits it, like, guys aren't even getting hands on him. And, the difference between him and Marcus Davenport, like, Marcus Davenport actually has a higher pressure rate, and it's mystifying. And I've been fooled by this since he came in the league, 3 years now. Like, every year I'm like, well, his pressure rate's high. He's knocking on the door. Something's going to happen. He's going to start getting sacks. He's going to start getting quarterback hits. Those almost plays are going to turn into actual production, and then they don't. Like, and it's just because he's long and, he's beating the tackle but not actually getting pressure. I don't know. But Granderson, his pressure rate's actually a little bit lower, but his pressures turn into hits, and they turn into sacks, and they're actual plays that affect the game. And I think if he gets more snaps, like, he could have a rise like Trey Henderson really quickly. The one thing missing from his game, I don't think he has a lot of power to his game. You don't see him use a bull rush a whole lot or anything like that. And I think that is something that the Saints like out of their pass rushers. So I think that's the next step for him. But the speed rush and, he can win inside with inside moves. He can win with outside moves. I think if he just gets more snaps, like, there's a chance that he could be, a consistently productive player. Like, I don't know if he'll ever hit the 13 sacks that Trey Hendrickson hit last year, But I don't think Trey Hendrickson's ever going to hit the 13 sacks he hit last year. So Granderson might have a chance to be a more consistently productive player if he gets the opportunity to get those snaps.
We'll wait and see. Still a lot of offseason left. Draft coming up, and I'm so excited to have Nick Underhill every Tuesday at 9:30 to break it down from New Orleans.football. Again, Saints fans, I cannot encourage you enough to go sign up for New Orleans.football. It is so worth it. Nick, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nick's debut on CST as well. How about that? Yeah, normally Nick's, he's on an early riser. Even get him at 9:30. It's very kind of him to do so. But yeah, so for the CST people out there, expect Nick every Tuesday. He is awesome when it comes to New Orleans Saints. You know what else is awesome? Delicious cold Coors Light. And we'll do a little Ask the Bench brought to you by Delicious Cold Coors Light. Next.